Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Ignite intro call for the cohort beginning in January of 2023. I'm excited to be here. This is going to be our fourth cohort of Ignite. There's a part of me that still has a hard time believing that because I'm remembering how this all got started, and I will share that with you in a couple of minutes. But I'm very, very, very excited to be here and to answer all of the questions and to tell you really what got me here and what I hope you'll gain from joining Ignite this year with me. So I'm just going to share with you that this call is very, very free flowing. I'm going to cover a lot of different things in no particular order of importance. This is not the kind of subject that you can really truly prepare for. It's a very free flowing subject. So I kind of jotted down some of my own thoughts, some of the questions that people sent in via email. Again, there are no particular order on my document. And then as you send in questions in the Zoom chat, I will answer them in the order that they come in. So let's start with some basics. Let's start with some fundamentals because those are always the easiest. So the way the course is structured is like this. It's a 6-week course where we do one module each week. Every module is a ton. It's jam-packed. We choose a subject. Obviously, those subjects are pre-chosen. I chose a subject based on interest that women have expressed to me in my years of doing this. It took me a long time to figure out how I wanted to distill this information because there was so much to cover. And if I'm honest, there's no way we can cover all of it in 6 weeks. And that's why I structured my course the way I did, where we're dealing with overarching themes, very, very broad ideas. Under those umbrellas, so many other more intimate and particular personal things will come up for you. So for example, module 1 is where we deal with the psychology of intimacy, more like reframing our minds. Module 2 is more of the body-based level, how we reframe our bodies. And each module goes deeper and deeper into that exploration on the psyche of intimacy. So the way the course is structured is that we meet once a week over Zoom. I realize that I did not specify that on the flyer. So many people texted me or emailed me to ask, is this in person? Is this in Zoom? Mental note for next year, make sure that's on the flyer. Yes, this is a Zoom course. We meet Sunday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and there's a lecture lecture portion to this course, and that happens Sunday night. So Sunday night, I just lecture. I talk a lot and expect those lectures to be full of a lot of information. I try to cram as much as possible into those lectures. Initially, when I first started teaching Ignite, I would say the lectures are an hour and a half. Realistically, they end up going longer. They end up going for about 2 hours. Don't worry if you can't make the lectures live. All of them are recorded. So no matter what time zone you're in or what is happening for you at the time of a lecture, you always get to go back and revisit them. So the audio recordings of the lectures are available for you pretty much until I give my next Ignite cohort. They're saved on a Google Drive. You get a link, you can download them, or you can listen to them straight on my Google Drive. And then you do get, this is the first time we're doing this. This is the first cohort of Ignite that I am offering the video replay for 24 hours via a YouTube link. And then of course, I always have people texting me saying, I don't have YouTube, I can't access that. I'm sorry. I wish I could be more accommodating. Maybe next cohort will have other options. But for right now, I do offer a 24-hour video replay of the lecture if you can't make it there live. So that's Sunday evening. Then all participants get a workbook. I don't like calling it homework. And when I teach Vessel, my other course, we call it Heartwork. And in Ignite, we call it home play because I do want this to feel more like play instead of work. So you do get a PDF of a workbook, well, playbook, let's call it a playbook, about a week before the course begins. So that you have time to print it out, spiral bind it, whatever format works well for you. And each module, there is home play or heart work that you get to do to help you explore those the topics that we discussed on Sunday more intimately and more experientially. Something that I learned in my years of doing this is that not everybody learns well through listening to lectures. I know that I don't. I learn well experientially. I learn well by actually practicing more than listening. And if I take my second best mode of learning, it's visually, not auditorily. So if anything, auditory learning is kind of low down on my list. I would quicker learn from reading a book because that's visual than listening to a share. So I completely get that. And that is the way my course is designed. It's really designed for every kind of learner. So some people just really love listening to the lectures and they feel like they get everything just from that. Some people don't really get there until they start doing the journaling. And some people need to go even deeper. Well, I believe everyone really needs to go deeper and wants to go deeper. And that's why for each module, there are meditations that you get to do. So each module, again, you get a lecture, which is Sunday night. You get journaling, heart work, home play that you get to do in your PDF workbook. And then there is also meditations, different meditations to take you on a different journey and kind of cultivate a different experience inside of you each module. Then we come back Thursday afternoons at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for question answers. If I'm honest, and I like to be honest, Q&As are my actual favorite part of any course that I give, because that's where I get to talk to you. That's where I get to answer all of your questions. So what happens is, during the course of the week, as you listen to the lecture, as you start doing the homeworks, you will have questions. There will be stuff coming up for you. And I love that. I get very excited about that because that makes your journey very much yours. You know, when I teach a subject like this, I can only teach it to a framework that works for me. But then within that framework, I want to hear what works for you or what comes up for you. So during the week, participants email me questions. I do not respond to any of the emails, but I do take those questions and I bring them all onto the Q&A call on Thursday. And those Q&A calls, again, initially they started out at about an hour and a half. And then after last year's cohort, we realized that is not going for an hour and a half. They tend to be more like 2 hours. Again, variants, sometimes they are shorter, sometimes they're a little longer. And I will go as long as it takes to really answer every question that comes up. No holds barred. One of the primary motivations for me getting into this work, and it's not a work I ever dreamed I would ever get into, but one of my biggest motivators were there were no one to ask questions to. When I had questions, there was no one out there. So that is something that I bring very strongly into this course. This is an open platform that you can ask anonymous questions. I will never tell anybody who those questions come from. In fact, I tend to not remember myself, because the minute a question comes in, I just immediately copy and paste it into a document. I delete the email. And by the time I come onto the Q&A, I really don't remember who sent which questions in. There is an additional element to this course for those of you that have WhatsApp. I do offer a WhatsApp Ignite chat group where every participant from every cohort that I've ever done gets dumped onto that chat group. Well, dumped, it's not such a nice word, but yeah, gets invited to join that chat group. And so that is a place where there's a lot of communication happening, a lot of conversation, a lot of support from women who have done Ignite in the years prior. At this point, this is our 4th cohort. So we have 3 prior cohorts who are here and ready and excited to support the new cohort on their journey. And I'm there as well. I read everything that comes into the chat. Disclaimer, I don't answer everything that comes onto the chat. So that's something that I let you know when we start the course. Please don't ever tag me in the chat, and insist that I answer any questions in the chat, because I won't. I pop in and out when I feel that I'm available, or I have something to say. But for questions to be answered, any question that gets sent into my email, I guarantee that comes onto my Q&A. I also don't offer, this is something that's really, really important to put out there. I don't offer any private one-on-one communication or facilitation during my coursework. So I always tell the women, yes, obviously, we're going to be on a WhatsApp chat group together. You will have access to my information, but it's something that I put out there. No, I don't offer any private communication. I won't answer any Ignite-related questions privately. If it's not on the chat and if it's not sent to me via the emails for the Q&A. The reason I do have to put this out there is because this course is not a substitute and it is not a replacement for therapy. And I cannot state this enough. I am not a therapist and I don't claim to be, and I don't claim that this course has all the answers. It just has my answers. It has the elements that I brought together as a result of my personal experience, my personal work in this field. And again, I'm going to go into that shortly. But I let all participants know that if there's something that comes up for you during this course, it is really your responsibility to know that you have the right support system in place. So I know I'm very clear about the support that we do offer, which is the Q&A, and there's a chat group where women get to schmooze and share and ask questions. But if you feel at any point, or if you have questions even before joining this course, if it's right for you, if you maybe have trauma and you can use more personalized work, I highly, highly suggest and encourage you to go out there and get yourself set up with a really, really good mentor, rabbi, therapist, or coach who can specialize in helping you through this area. So let's talk more about what Ignite is. Now that you know the logistics and the basic structure about how this course works. Oh, there's one more piece I forgot. Once you take this course with me, you get to take it again with me every year free of charge. That's why I don't offer discounts on this course. And every year it does go up in price because realistically, I'm charging a lot less than what it's worth. But you know, every year we build it up into increments until we'll get there. I do offer a payment plan for those that ask. But no, I don't offer discounts because this is a course that you don't just take once. You're going to be in this for life. So I have women now who are doing this course for the 4th year in a row, and they only pay once to be a part of this. And the reason why I do this, the reason why it is my guarantee, whether you're signing up for Vessel, whether you're signing up for Ignite, or whatever course I give in the future, when you're in forever. Because not only is there way too much content offered in this course to be able to really capture it and do it all in 6 weeks, this is the kind of content that you're going to need to come back to again and again and again. There's no way to really know who you are as a woman in your full intimacy and sexuality, in your 20s. There's no even way to do that in your 30s or even in your 40s. Every few years or every year or every few months, you're going to be forced to revisit that because you change, you grow up, your life changes, your surroundings change. And this course is created for women of all ages and stages, and I will talk more about that soon. And that's why I really recommend, once you're in, take it again and again and again. I don't charge you for it, but I highly encourage you to revisit this material again and again and again. I know that last year in January of it's going to be 22. Yeah, I'm trying to keep up with the dates here. In December, January of 22, when I gave this course, I was expecting. So I was coming at this material from a whole different place. Now I'm going to be about a year postpartum, a whole different place. And if I can say that as a teacher, that my relationship to my body and to the subject is constantly changing, that much more so if you're a student coming in to join this course and approaching this material for the first or second or third time. So let's talk about this material. I never thought that this was going to be something that I do or teach or am busy with. I grew up thinking that I was going to be, well, I didn't really know what I was going to be when I grew up. I think that was one of my concerns when I was a teenager, and all of my friends were busy taking SATs for college, and it seemed like everybody figured it out. Everybody knew what they wanted, and I felt like, I don't know what I want. Is there something wrong with me? And then as I got a little older, I explored myself more and more, and I thought I found what I was looking for when I started writing books, novels. I was writing for magazines, and I was doing copywriting for a bunch of years, advertising. And I really thought I found my niche. I was kind of happy sitting behind a computer all day. And then life started happening to me. The things that I couldn't predict, the things that threw me for a loop, broke me open, broke my heart a couple of times. And I found that I had questions that nobody had the answers to. And I needed to go on this journey to heal my own heart, to find my own answers, because there was no one out there giving them to me. And through that, I realized I was sitting on information that other people needed to know. Now, I never thought I was going to be out there teaching this, but I did become known as the kind of person that people could come to with anything. And at a certain point, one of my friends said, Fally, you really need to start going out there and teaching this. And I was like, no, that's really strange. I'm really not going to put myself out there in that way. Who am I to do this? And she pushed me hard. And I couldn't really escape her because we go to the gym together every day. So every morning, it was kind of like, as I'm trying to work out and do my push-ups, she's like, but Fally, but you need to do your course, but you need to do your course. And finally, I said yes. And this course started with 15 women around my dining room table. And then COVID hit somewhere in the middle of it was initially going to be 5 weeks, not 6 weeks. COVID hit somewhere in the middle. And so we transferred to Zoom. And when I learned that Zoom is an excellent platform actually for giving over this information, the next year I did decide to run this over Zoom. And we went from 15 women to about 40 women. And the year after that, we went to about 60 women. And based on the interest level that I've received just from podcasts I've given, a lot of you got to me through the Intimacy Summit that you watched this summer. If I'm honest, I had about 800 women reach out after the Intimacy Summit. I don't expect 800 women to join Ignite, but the fact that 800 women reached out after listening to me speak in the summer on the Intimacy Summit tells me how thirsty women are for this content, for something along these lines. And I feel terrified. I was going to say scared, but scared is not a word that does it justice. I feel terrified, and also terrified. I feel like I'm going to have to say the word terrified a few more times before I get to the next one. And also deeply privileged that I'm here, that this is something that I get to do and share. Now, what I believe about this is sexuality is life force. It's the secret of creation. When Hashem created the world in 6 days, and then the seventh day, he says, I'm going to rest. So what happened to that energy of creation? And the secret is right there in the pasuk. The first words that we hear Hashem talk and say to mankind, is Peru Uravu, be fruitful, go and multiply, because now I'm going to rest. And the secret of creation is that Hashem handed creation energy over to Adam and Chava when he said, Peru Uravu, now it's your turn. Creation is in your hands. And that thought to me is so magical. It's so mystical, especially since it has been said that Hashem created the world from a place of desire. And we don't ask questions on a desire, because a desire is the spark of the soul speaking through you. And this idea that Hashem had a desire to create the world, and then he passed on that torch of desire to Adam and Chava, and he said, now it's your turn. And yet I meet so many women, primarily because that's who I work with, I don't work with men, who say, I don't know where my desire is. I hear this word, but I just don't know how to connect to it, and I don't know what it really means. And I'll be honest with you, I know what they mean by that, because, and I feel a little teary if I have to talk about my own journey to this. I didn't get to this place naturally. Like I said, I never thought that this is what I was going to be doing. If you had met my younger self, and I don't even mean too much younger, I mean 10 years ago, and you told her that I was going to be here on a Sunday morning giving a Zoom call that is probably going to be listened to a couple of thousand times before the week is over from women all over the world, I'm trying to picture her face. She would probably look at you in horror and disbelief, and then run away screaming. Yeah, this is not what I ever thought I would be doing. And I do have to put a huge disclaimer out there. People assume that just because I teach this, I have all the answers. And I have to tell you, I don't. What I have is questions. I have so many questions, and I have a deep, deep desire to understand my questions, to find answers to those questions, because what I've learned is if I have questions, I'm not the only one. So many women and men have the same questions I do. And I started this journey from a place of deep questioning. Um, you know, I don't know how you came to this subject. I don't know who initiated you, who taught you this information, where you were first exposed, but it's highly unlikely that you were first taught this in a healthy, safe, and sacred way via an adult that you loved, trusted, and looked up to. I mean, of course, there are always exceptions to every rule. And I know there are some women on this call who are going to say, but I did. And you know what? Lucky you. Really, really lucky you. But the statistics show that most people are exposed to this content, to this information, to the world of intimacy between the ages of 8 and 12, and usually via media or their friends or in an unsafe way, not via an adult who is safe and trusted, which means that by the time we get to an age where it is, let's call it, and I'm going to use this word even though I don't like this word, where it's seemingly appropriate to begin studying this content, most of us have already been exposed. And that means that we had this content sitting in the back of our mind for a long time and germinating, because seeds, they start growing. And when seeds are planted, and we don't really have control over what those seeds are, they're there and they take a toll. And it's not enough to just say, well, then, then I went to college classes, or then I matured. Yeah, but what foundation was set? And I remember learning when I went to college classes, but this is natural, you know? And then it didn't feel natural to me. There were so many, let's call it, battles to fight or hills to climb, and barriers and roadblocks to work through. And I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought I was broken. I thought, well, everyone says this is natural, right? Even animals do it. Everybody can figure this out. So why not me? And I spent the first few years of my marriage feeling like there's something so profoundly wrong with me. I must be the problem. I must be broken. I felt guilt. I felt shame. I felt, I think, broken. I think that's really the best word to describe it. And I felt like there were no answers. So many times I took myself to therapy only to come home feeling even more wrong, like nobody had the answers. And, I looked up to my therapists as if they knew, right? Because they went through schooling, they went through the training, and so therefore they must know. And when therapists told me, we can't help you, we can't fix you, I never dreamed that, okay, that was their limitation. I thought that was mine, that there was something really inherently wrong with me. And it took a long time to break through that level of conditioning and realize, no, no, there is a whole world out there that is untapped, unexplored, and undiscovered. And it has been my privilege and my honor, and also my really heartbreaking experience to be able to go out there, discover that for myself, and now bring that back to you. One of the reasons that I hate the words, oh, it's only natural, everybody does that, is because, or even animals do that, is because that is not true. That is not true. One of the reasons that the animal kingdom has no problem with any of this content is because they don't have a conscious mind. They don't have a prefrontal cortex that enables them to think logically and linearly, and humans do. And we forget that. We don't give enough credit to how much of our logical, linear brains actually factor into the experience of intimacy. Everything begins in the mind, and not enough credit was being done or is being given to the minds of the women of the world and to the youth today, and what's being put into those minds and how it affects them later on. So like I said, I got here through a lot of personal experience. And I think it's because, like I said earlier in this call, I think Hashem knows that I learn best through experience, right? I could have read a million books, and that is what I did in the beginning. I could have listened to a lot of lectures, and I could have gone to a lot of therapy. And none of that really touched me until my own personal experience forced me to go on this journey of reclaiming that for myself. when I went to school for this, and yes, I did go to school for this, people like to ask, like, what qualifies me to teach this content? Well, nothing qualifies me. Absolutely nothing. Like I said, I'm not a therapist. I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not. The only thing that qualifies me is that I'm a human being who has a certain level of experience, and I speak from that experience and that experience only. However, that experience and that search for answers did lead me to choose to go to school for this. And so I did. I went through extensive training. I've spent really my last 10 years in school putting myself through different programs, learning different modalities, finding what worked best for me, what targeted my brain best, and then figuring out how I could give over this content to the women who really, really needed it and kept asking me for it. So I did go to school for intimacy counseling, and it was a very intense program, unlike anything that I really could give words to because it was very experiential. Unfortunately, no, I do not give out the names of my teachers for two reasons. One, it's just a professional thing that I like to keep close to my heart. I'm sure most of you can appreciate that. But two, no, I don't give out the names of my teachers because I feel that this information is extremely, extremely sacred and has to come from a place of Torah and Kedusha. And my teachers were not Jewish. Many of my teachers, not all, but many of my teachers were not Jewish. And so I don't feel comfortable giving out names of my teachers who were not Jewish and were not Torah sourced. Not because I don't have deep, deep appreciation for what they have taught me and what I've gained from their classes, but because it does come at a price. And for me, I spent a long time needing to integrate and really run that content through a lot of filters before I felt safe inside of myself and comfortable giving it out to a Jewish audience. I worked with many rabbis and mentors to help me distill this information in a way that felt sacred, holy, and kodesh and pure for me. And that is one of the reasons that I won't give out any names of teachers that I've worked with that I don't feel gave this over in a way that I feel comfortable, guiding people to. But when I went through this training, I realized that, well, it wasn't this training, it was many, many trainings. One of the questions that some of the students asked the teachers, how do we talk about this? How do we talk about what it is that we're doing, what we're training for? It's awkward, it's really, really awkward. How do we tell our parents, what we're in school for? And one of our teachers said, be honest, get comfortable being honest, what it is that you do and what it is that you teach and what it is that you are training for. And you'll notice that when you tell people what it is that you're in school for, around 80% of people will have the same response. They'll all come over to you and say, can I talk to you? And we left, and we got very comfortable going out there and saying that this is what we do. And my teacher was wrong. It's not 80% of people that say that. It is literally 120% of people. I've never met anyone who hasn't responded yet with that same response. Hey, can I talk to you? Can I ask you a question? And what I've seen is when people ask questions, there's usually a certain amount of secrecy and shame attached, and they think that there's something wrong with them. Like, I don't know anyone who has that question, and please don't think I'm weird for asking. And you know what I have found, and I'm not doing this for so long. Like I said, this whole journey for me is about 10 years. Well, 10 years since I moved into wanting to give this over, but I've been married now for 18 years, and it's been a journey of, well, I can't even say 18. It has to be much longer than that because this journey began in my childhood as well, right? With my first exposure to this content. And it was really, really young, way before an age that we would consider appropriate. If anyone has been through molestation or abuse, or we don't even have to go there. If you live in an urban area and you see advertisements on city buses, you've been exposed at a very young age, way before you were ready. So this journey has been a very, very, very long time, but only in the last couple of years or so since I've been doing this, I wouldn't say hundreds, I would say thousands of women have reached out asking questions, thinking that they're the only one. And what I've seen is Nothing surprises me anymore. If you have the question, I promise you, you are not the first to ask it of me. So many have come before you. And you know what's amazing? It's not just that so many have come before you. We have a tradition, we have a Masorah where these questions, where these concepts, where this content is discussed at length. And so many of us think that we're weird, that we're wrong for having these questions, when really our own Rabbanim, our Talmud is full of discourse and discussions on these subjects in way more detail, way more graphic detail than you would ever feel comfortable asking. And that to me was so profound, that it's Torah. This is Torah. I once listened to a lecture by Rabbi David Lapin a very, very long time ago. He had a beautiful series on the Parsha, and it was in Parsha Shemos where he was talking something about sexuality. And he, was it Shemos? I do believe it was a Parsha Shemos. I just don't remember which year. So if you look him up, and he's going to have 1,000 lectures under Parsha Shemos, I cannot remember which year it was. But he said, if Torah talks about it, then we talk about it. Who am I to censor Torah? We don't censor Torah. We're here to study Torah. We do that together. And if Torah brings up a topic, no, regardless of how you feel about this topic, it is our responsibility to learn it because it's in Torah. And that for me was so validating, that there is a Torah approach, and I wanted more of that. And the more I started exploring that, the more alive I really became, because this is life force. Some of you have heard me speak before. I have this kind of TED talk that I've been developing over the last 10 years, speaking to so many different women, working with clients, running my workshops, teaching courses like Vessel, which deal with self-growth and the psychology of the psyche. Psychology of the psyche. Yeah, that was kind of redundant. Just the psychology, your inner world. And what I realized is that when it comes to life force, there are 5 life forces: food, sexuality, money, breath, and spirit. I don't want to say God, because it's more than just our very narrow version of what God is or isn't. It's spirit, spirituality, our essence, right? Our soul. And they are all the same thing. And how you relate to one is how you relate to all. And I'm not going to go into that in depth, because I do that in my courses. But if you have something around food, you very likely have the same something around your intimate life or your relationship with Hashem. And so that's why this subject is so important to me, because sexuality, intimacy, it brings you in touch with your own life force energy, with your own desire, with your own aliveness. And I think that's really what's missing. I think we've made this subject very much about, sex, very much about one thing. And it isn't about that. That is, the physical act, the intimate act, that is the very last piece of it. But there's so much more. 99.9% of intimacy is something that is inherent in our minds, in our bodies, in our hearts, in our souls. The physical act is only the last piece. And we're not spending enough time exploring what needs to come before. And that's what Ignite is. Ignite is the psychology of intimacy, that by the time it comes to the physicality, you are really there. You are really, really present, heart, mind, body, and soul. So there's a reason that I've noticed that women tend to feel called sharing their birth stories. They feel very pulled to sit in a circle and to share how their births were, their labors, deliveries, because without knowing what we know, we feel that there's something very, very sacred in those stories or those experiences that we don't really know how to put words to, but we try, because these experiences, they don't really have words, but we need to kind of make sense of them as these experiences change us from the inside, as they flow through us. And we haven't built a culture, we haven't built an environment or the teachings or the understandings to help women really step into their aliveness as women. And that is what Ignite aims to do. See, the women in Mitzrayim, it says, B'schus nashim tzidkanios negalo avoseinu mitzrayim. The women in Mitzrayim, they knew. They knew this. They knew the secret of embodied femininity, embodied sacred womanhood. They had this knowing that in order to connect to the divine, to Hashem, to spirit, we first needed to know what intimacy is in this world, in the physical world. Everything in the spiritual world is a mirror of what happens in the physical world. And for a woman, her connection to the divine begins with a connection to the divinity within herself. When Hashem orchestrated creation, he built the world from inanimate objects upwards, right? First to ideas, concepts like light and dark, right? You can't really touch light and dark. They're just experiences. And then he became more grounded, right? Literally the water, which we can touch, but that wasn't solid. And then the ground, which was solid. And then the life forces, more and more and more, until the pinnacle of creation was Adam, man himself. But then after man, Hashem created woman, because woman is the secret. Woman is the secret to connecting through the divine. And it's not commonly known, and I don't know why, they never taught us this in school, but Chava, her real name was not Chava. Initially, her name was Chaya, which means life, life force. And when Hashem created Chaya, she was the epitome of life force, and her births were pure and easy. It was only after the Eitz Hadas that she and Adam became disconnected from that ease, that divinity, that the life force, and her name became Chava. But then back in Mitzrayim, when Paro called the midwives to him, and he said, I need you to kill the Jewish babies, the Jewish baby boys as they're born, the midwives answered Paro and they said, we can't. They don't call us to their births. Ki chayos hena. They give birth like animals. And it seems so derogatory. Like, what does that mean? And different Mefarshim explain that the women in Mitzrayim had no pain giving birth. They were so connected to their bodies that they didn't need assistance. They just were able to go out into the fields the same way animals do, and they were able to birth naturally and easily. But also, ki chayos hena. They became connected to the essence of Chava before the sin, when she was Chaya, before Hashem cursed her with the difficulties with pregnancy, labor, and delivery, kitzar gidol banim. In Mitzrayim, they went back to their original knowing, the knowing of Chaya, the sacred feminine, the sacred desire, and they were able to give birth naturally and easily. And the more I studied this, the more alive I became. I want that knowing. And last year, like I said, I gave this course when I was expecting. It was such a profound experience for me to give birth. I think I ended up having the baby around 2 weeks after the course was done. And such an interesting experience giving birth from that place after having just immersed myself for 6 weeks into the Ignite experience. It was that birth, Ki chayos hena, just breathed a baby into the world with this, and it was this moment of awe and revelation of, wow, this is possible. This is real. And I wish more people knew about this. So will this transform your pregnancy, labor, delivery? I don't know. I can only hope. I know that it did mine. What else can I say about this? I do have to say that this course, I can't really do it justice when I speak about it on an intro call, because all I can really talk about is the framework, the structure, my journey to getting here. But the reality is that the real course opens up with you, your questions, the Q&A calls. They really set the tone for how this course is given, what the women need to hear and want to hear, what they came here to learn. And it's such an honor for me to be able to do that. So I do have to put a disclaimer out there. I do say that this course is open for women of all ages and stages. You don't have to be married to join the course. Obviously, that's something I want you to do at your discretion, okay? Everybody knows where they stand. And I do have to say, this is a very open course. I don't filter anything. So my heart and my soul dictate that I come at this content with a deep level of respect and sacredness and joy and passion and Torah, right? And Kedusha, that's a very, very big thing for me. And I love learning and I love studying, but at the same time, your questions are what set the tone, and I answer every single question that comes in, and we don't censor. So that's a very, very big deal to consider, that some people say, I don't know if I want to be exposed. And I just kind of leave it at your own discretion. You'll know for yourself if this course is right for you. And I don't sell my course. This is the most I do. So when someone texts me or emails me and says, I'm not sure if this course is right for me, I say it probably isn't. I work with the women who say, Fally, I've been waiting my whole life for this, and I don't even know why. It's not something specific you said. It's kind of the energy, or there's a knowing in my heart, and that's really how it worked for me. I was on this journey for a long time, and I remember when my husband sent me a link to a school that spoke about intimacy, and I remember like looking at this school program, and I was kind of like, I don't know, my whole it was just and my husband says, just go through the application process, because why not? In the worst case, you'll just get accepted, and you won't go. You'll turn it down, but at least put yourself out there. And the only reason I applied was because I knew that 75% of applicants get turned away, and I was kind of hoping that they would reject me, and then the decision would be made for me. So I bombed my application on purpose. I answered all of the questions in a very irreverent way, and 24 hours later, they reached out to me for an interview. And I remember thinking, oh no, I hope I get rejected. And then on the interview, the interviewer just said, I'm done. Like, you're in. And usually they send out the acceptances a week or two later. And she just said it to me right on the call, and I just burst into tears. And I said, I was hoping you would reject me. And she says, why? Why would you hope that we would reject you? I said, because something deep in my heart knows I need to do this. And my heart was pounding, and I felt like this was so true. I said, and I am so scared. I am so scared of this, because I know that this is true for me. And I know that if you accept me, it's like I have to do this. And that was my journey. So when women reach out to me and say, Fally, I don't even know why I need your course, I just know that I need it, I say, I know what you feel like, because I do this too. And I get nervous before every call. I've been sitting here meditating in my office before I turn on the Zoom call, because I get nervous before every call that I do, because I still can't believe I'm here and I'm putting myself out there. So if you're not sure if this course is right for you, it probably isn't. Okay. I'm not here to convince anybody. I don't advertise other than a flyer that I put on my WhatsApp status and I send out via email. I don't do anything more than that. And Baruch Hashem, the people who needed me have all found me. And I'm very humble and, grateful about that. I really just feel like I show up with a small amount of hishtadlus, and I always tell Hashem, I just want to be your messenger. So if this is content that you desired for me to put out there, I will, but then the rest is up to you. And so yeah, I don't apologize for being uncensored in the call, in my Q&As, or in the course, because it's Torah. And if it's Torah, it needs to be taught. And our Talmud was not uncensored. If you open up the Gemara, it makes even me blush. And I don't blush easily. If you open Shir Hashirim, there's a lot there. It is beautiful. It is erotica, and it is beautiful. And it is very, very sacred. So for me, this course is no holds barred. We don't censor. We show up. We show up in a very, very sacred way to open that container, whatever that container holds. So bearing all that in mind, I do not offer a rabbinic approval for this course. I have chosen that very, very intentionally. I get asked this question all the time, and I'll be very, very specific about why I don't offer a haskama on any of my courses, because there is no rabbi in the world that can give an approval or a validation for a course that's so open, okay? For a course content that is unfiltered. The most that I can have a rabbi do is look over the workbook, and that's nothing, okay? The workbook is just one small part of the course. It's our conversations, it's the WhatsApp group, it's your questions, it's the Q&A that are the real meat and potatoes of this course. And there is no way for any rabbi to give his approval on something he can't predict. And I do have rabbis that I work with, and a lot of you have asked me who they are. I will not give out the names of my rabbis. They are very, very important for me. They are a private and personal relationship for me. What is important is that you develop your relationship with your own rabbis. Again, this course is going to bring up stuff that's going to bring up questions in you. Only your rabbis, only your mentors are the right people to answer those questions for you, okay? Knowing who my rabbis are is not going to make this course any more, I don't know, kosher for you. Because again, that's on everyone to have their own people that they trust that can support them and guide them on this journey. I did make the mistake one year of being bullied. And I'll be honest, I was bullied, okay? Because I'm very, very clear on this, that I don't give out the names of my Rabbanim. I do quote them, I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to say it here. I will not say it on the intro call, but I will say it like while I teach. If I learned something from one of my rabbis or teachers, I will always say them, right? But I deliberately keep their names out of the intro call, because when you decide that you sign up for the course, I want you to do it from a place of your knowing, from a place of your guidance, not mine. And one year I was bullied into giving out the names of two of my Rabbanim, and I did. And the interested participant, what they did was actually called both of my rabbis, and both of my rabbis, I mean, I have more than two, okay, but the two names that I gave, they gave glowing recommendations on myself, on my course, and my work. And of course they did, because they're my rabbis, okay? They work very, very closely with me. They know my work, they know my mindset, they know my hashkafa, they know where I come from. So of course they were going to give me glowing recommendations, because they're my rabbis. I wouldn't give you the names of anybody who wouldn't say nice things about me. And what ended up happening was that I really betrayed my own knowing when I did that, because this woman did not go through their own rabbis. And what happened was, as the course content went on, this person kept having serious issues with some of the things that were discussed on the content, on the course, and ended up dropping out of the course. And I gladly refunded her all of her money, because I realized that I had crossed my own boundaries by giving her the names of my rabbis when I said that I wouldn't. So I learned from my own experiences and from my own mistakes. And I know it's not conventional, especially in the frum world. Everybody does this with a rabbinic haskama, and I absolutely will not. Everyone is required to really consult with their own rabbis. So the question that I get a lot is, yeah, but my rabbi doesn't know you, so my rabbi can't really tell me if this course is right for you. Your rabbi doesn't need to know me in order to know if this course is right for you, because again, I'm not asking your rabbi to give a haskama on me or on the course. I'm asking you to have a rabbi, mentor, teacher, or friend that you can turn to when this course brings up questions of a personal nature for you. So that's a very, very important distinction to make. There will be no haskama on the course, not from my rabbi and not from your rabbi. What you need rabbis for are for your own personal questions when you need guidance. Yeah, and I just have to really, really stick with this. I know I get a lot of grief and pushback around this. And for me, I just found that I need to be honest about what works for me. I found that also there's a tremendous reliance on outside people. If my rabbi tells me it's okay, I'm going to do it. Or if my doctor tells me it's okay, I'm going to do this procedure. And we're so disconnected from our own heart, our own bina yisera, our own bodies, our own inner knowing. So the women who joined this course are all women who said, my heart said yes, my whole body lit up. And that's how I knew this course was right for me. So of course, I do recommend that you do have your people that you reach out to, but in the context that it's appropriate for, and not in an overarching haskama that really cannot be given on a course that is so nuanced and honestly uncensored and unfiltered. I highly recommend that if you have questions that you'd like for me to answer, pop them in the Zoom chat. I have some questions that I wrote down, different emails that already came in. So I'll start with those. But if you have something you'd like for me to answer, just pop it into the Zoom chat and I'll get to that after I read the ones that already came in. I'm just going to read one email that came in this morning, and I probably got 30 emails that looked like this. Actually, no, I didn't get 30. I got 800 emails in the summer that looked like this. And I'm sorry, I don't get a chance to respond to all the emails that come in. I really do need to hire a secretary. One of the reasons that I don't is because everything that comes in tends to be of such a personal nature that I have not found it appropriate yet to hire somebody to help me with everything that comes in, but it also comes at the cost of, I get 800 emails and it's impossible for me to respond to them all. But I will read you one that came in this morning that really reflects like the 800 that I got all summer after the Intimacy Summit. Hey, Fally, I'm looking forward to your Ignite intro call. I'm so excited and I can't wait. I was moved to tears when I heard you by the summit in the summer. Wow, where were you 18 years ago when I needed you to understand what is happening to me? Who can I ask? Not my college teacher, definitely not my parents. I was clueless what to ask my doctor or even which kind of doctor. You spoke about things that are so brushed under the carpet. It's so sad. I was searching and yearning for answers, but what I found, I couldn't share because no one spoke about it. I felt so weird. I always wanted to share my views all along, but I never had the courage. And here you come, all confident, and you share so openly what needed to be shared years ago. Thank you. Hashem should bench you for raising the carpet and guide Yiddish women to the MSN dignity. So thank you to the person who sent in this email, and thank you to all of you who sent in emails like this, because they really touch me. Because I have to say, I come into this with, I don't want to say insecurity. It's not insecurity. I'm not insecure about what I do. I'm actually pretty confident about what I do, and you can see that in the way that I speak and what I share and my passion about it. But I come into this with so much humility and echoes of my own broken heart, because I know what got me to this place, and I know that every single woman emailing me or texting me is going through that experience herself on some level. And so I identify with you. I resonate with you. And thank you. And I feel so much joy and privilege that we get to do this together. When I first was in school, and we had a semester on business, and part of the semester was who's your ideal client? And they guided us through all these different exercises and meditations to help us find out who our ideal client is and was. And what kept popping up for me was teenagers. And I was just like, no, I don't want to work with teenagers. Disclaimer, I worked with teenagers for a long time. My first few years teaching, I taught teens. I loved it. And the novels that I wrote were all for teenagers. For those of you who are like, she writes novels? I never heard of her. Yeah, I did write novels under a different name, under a pen name. If you'd like to look that up, I wrote it under the name Tzippi Katen. The book that I'm most known for is Miracle Ride. It was a book that I wrote about my journey with cancer at age 16. So if you want to just look that up, you can probably find it online. I spelled my name Tzippi. Tzippi, it's my middle name, and Katen, Caton, which is kind of code name for Katan, which is small, and the name Klein in German, Yiddish means small, so that's me. So I worked with teens for a long time, and when that came up in my meditations, I was like, no, I don't want to work with teens, and I couldn't figure out why that kept coming up. And what I realized after, it took me some time, but what I realized was my ideal demographic is women, the mothers of teens, because really my heart knows what it means to be a teenager who's hurting, a teenager who's exposed to the wrong information in a very, very unsafe way, a teenager who maybe was violated. And I wanted to rescue and save all the teenagers out there who are struggling. And I knew that I couldn't. And then I realized, but I could help their mothers. Because really, who do teenagers deserve to be taught by? Who do they deserve to be rescued by? Who do they deserve to be protected by? Their parents. And so that's my demographic. I teach women so that women can then teach their daughters. I don't anticipate that we will have all the answers in our generation, but I see our generation as the one working so that the next generation can be raised in a totally different environment and mindset and hashkafa. So ultimately, I am working for the next generation, but I do it by working with women today who are going to be the teachers and mothers and the leaders of the incoming, the future women of Klal Yisrael. And I do have a daughter that's a teenager right now, and I feel like it's such an honor and privilege I use those words a lot. Yeah, this Ignite stuff, this intimacy, sexuality, brings up the word honor and privilege a lot for me. Just to watch my daughter and her growth and her trajectory in this subject and in this field, and all of my kids, honestly, I just do have this one daughter. So just to see all of the womanhood, all of the femininity, and how that's being given over into this one daughter that I have. But even watching my sons approach this subject with respect and sacredness, and I even made a comment a week or two ago, and my 10-year-old son made a comment to me, and he said, "Mommy, I didn't appreciate the way you made that comment because you taught us that this subject was supposed to be sacred. And I didn't feel that your comment was sacred." And he was right. I mean, obviously we all have what to learn, and I slipped up over there. And it was so meaningful to me that my own child was able to tell me, I want to hear this only in a sacred way. And you taught me that. And so that is my goal with this content. I know a lot of us as women, we come in already with pain, with years that of shutdown or violation or inauthentic content that didn't work for us. And my heart goes out to all of us who've dealt with that. But I tell you, if I could tell you the idea behind creating this course, I didn't create it for you. I created it for your daughters. I created it for your daughters-in-law. I created it for your granddaughters by way of you. So yes, of course, you're going to get a lot out of this course, but just keep in mind that this course is meant to target more than just you. It's meant to target the future generations of Klal Yisrael. So I really take a long view on this. Okay, going to go to some more questions. Someone did ask, I'd like to hear from a past participant. Overall, what did they feel they gained from the Ignite course? Why they recommend it. So I don't give out the names of past participants. I know that there are some of you on the call right now. If you'd like to kind of pop in a comment in the Zoom chat, would be greatly appreciated. Or if any of you want to email me, I guess some feedback, I can pretty much maybe think of sending that out there in an email with when I send out the link to the recording for this call. I don't really love doing that. I'll be honest, I don't love doing it. Every single person who came to Ignite came to it from a deep place inside of them that they couldn't explain. They didn't come here because they read testimonials. I don't do that, which is weird because I spent so many years in advertising and marketing, and you would think that someone who specialized in marketing and advertising, that I would use everything at my disposal to get you to join. And I've made it very, very intentional. I don't want to do that because I know the manipulation that goes into advertising. I know the manipulation that goes into marketing, into getting you to buy my product. And in fact, when I come and try to sell my course, I try to not sell it. I kind of, I'm much more awkward on these calls than I am on my classes. Anyone who knows me and has seen me teach before could attest to that. The intro calls don't sound anything like the way I really show up in class. I usually show up with a lot more polish and finesse and confidence. Here, you're really getting a very raw, unfiltered, unedited version of me, and I want that because I want you to know if this course is right for you from the raw, unfiltered place, not from someone else's testimonial. But I will tell you that just I've had just by last count, okay, I don't claim to remember everybody and everyone's stories, and I don't know everything about everybody who's taken my course. There are at least 5 college teachers who have taken Ignite, and at least 4 people who have taken Ignite who now became college teachers as a result, who were inspired to go for college teacher training as a result. I myself went for college teacher training because as much as I came to this content from my own search and my own desire, my own brokenness, and I did go to secular schools, I felt a very strong pull that I needed to also really primarily learn this from a Jewish source. So even though I don't intend on ever working with Kalas, I did become trained as a Kala teacher because I wanted to really, really immerse myself in this subject from a Torah perspective, from the perspective of Chazal. And I find that very, very valuable. And it does inform a lot of the way that I give over this content. So are definitely women of all ages, stages, backgrounds, okay, and affiliations on this course. But a lot of them are from really, let's call it Beis Yaakov, hashkafic backgrounds. And yep, as much as we are open and unfiltered, we try the best we can to keep this as sacred and as Kodesh as possible. So the next question, since your course technically has no topic that's off limits and a diverse group of women, did anyone regret being exposed to anything more secular in the course than what they were used to? Nobody that I know of, okay? If there are women who regret, they haven't told me, okay? And I'm sorry, maybe there are. If there are, you are more than welcome to tell me. I'm very open and accepting of feedback. I don't think that would actually change the way I run my course. I'm very comfortable with the way I run this content, but it's always good to hear feedback, even the feedback of what doesn't work. Like I said, in all of my years doing this, and we're going to be on our 4th cohort, I only had one person, just one, that claimed to regret being exposed. And that was the one that I gave my rabbis to because I was bullied into them and didn't come from her own inner knowing. Okay. So that was the only time I ever had that I was told. Okay. Maybe there are other women, but I can't know that. Another question. Do you know, are there any frum opinions that feels that there is a plus to being naive or more sheltered in the topic of intimacy? If so, can you elaborate on the opinions at all? There are absolutely opinions that believe in the naivete of this content. I will not share them because it would be a tremendous chutzpah for me to quote those opinions and say that I'm going counter to those opinions, okay? So if I tell you the names of the Rabbanim that are against sharing this content, and I say, but I am sharing this content, that would put me in a position of going against a rabbinic authority that I'm not comfortable doing. But at the same time, there are rabbis that directly oppose the naivete and keeping our young naive and closed. Okay. And by the way, the discourse of, there are so many rabbis that are constantly in this conversation, but I read this conversation. I read about rabbis having this conversation 30 years ago. Okay, 30 years ago, and I'm not going to name the rabbis, but you can look it up yourself. There's a great book that just came out, From Boys to Men. It's a Jewish book about how to approach the subject of intimacy and puberty and sexuality with your sons. In general, I don't find that there are many great Jewish books out there, but in the last 5 years, there have been. Like Baruch Hashem, there are some amazing Jewish books. Not all of them. I don't recommend all of them. Some of them I think are just too naive, too closed, or but there are some really good books out there. So From Boys to Men came out just this year. Very, very surprisingly impressed with how they address this subject. And they actually do talk in that book about different Rabbanim that argued this topic. And that was 30 years ago, okay? So with 30 years ago, when one Rav or some Rabbanim said that it was important to keep the children naive. And 30 years ago, Rabbanim said, are you kidding me? Children today know more than we know, and that was 30 years ago. Imagine what children today in 2023 are exposed to. And if you heard me say this at the beginning of the call, that the average age of exposure is between 8 and 12. Think about when you were first exposed to this content. It was likely between the ages of 8 and 12 and not from someone safe or reliable. Then what are we gaining by keeping our kids supposedly naive? They are not naive. They are not innocent. They are being fed information that is false. And false information is very, very dangerous. Let me show you why, okay? I'm trained formally as a hypnotherapist. That's where my a lot of my background is informed by hypnotherapy. And in hypnosis, which is very closely linked to advertising and marketing, come to think about it, because we basically hypnotize you into buying a product, we do something called suggestibility tests to kind of show you the power of the mind. So I'll show you one right now, all right? If you just close your eyes right now and you think of a delicious yellow lemon, just really, really bright yellow lemon, and it looks so ripe. And as you approach that lemon and you can pick it up in your hand and bring it up to your nose, just imagine smelling that lemon. Oh, that citrusy, sharp, sweet, lemony scent. And there's something inside of you that would like to taste the lemon. So you take a knife and you cut open that lemon, and the juices of the lemon start flowing, and the scent, the smell gets so much sharper. And you pick that lemon up to your mouth, and you put your lips at the edge of that lemon and you squeeze, and you take a bite out of that big, juicy lemon. What happens to your mouth? You start salivating, and maybe your face even went, right? You made that little grimace, like, oh, that was sharp. Why? You're not actually holding a lemon. You're just imagining holding a lemon. So why is your mouth salivating? Because your body responds to what's in your mind. Your mind and your thoughts shape your reality. Our children are not naive. Our children are exposed, and they haven't been taught by you. They were taught by their friends. They were taught by the city buses. They were taught by porn. And yes, I hate to say this, but your kids are being exposed to porn. And if you don't believe me, you're in for a huge shock, because it is rampant It is out there. Ask your husbands when they were first exposed and how and by whom, okay? And these things fester in your children's minds, and their bodies start responding to what gets put into their mind. And this is why it is so important for us as mothers, as women, to have the right information, to be broad enough to hold the sacred container that this information demands, because your children need you, because they are being exposed. They are not naive. And you know something? You know something? A child who is naive, a child who comes to their 17th birthday and doesn't know anything in a world that is so overexposed, we have to ask a question. That's interesting. Why have they never picked up anything? That's also, that's the opposite extreme, and it poses a problem in and of itself. You have some people, it's a very small minority, okay? The majority of people were exposed, but I do deal with a minority who were in shock and awe when they learned this information too late, okay? Because then they had years in their marriage where they couldn't adjust to this new reality. They couldn't adjust to how their body was supposed to show up in the world. And the fact is, the elements of intimacy, of sexuality, are blossoming slowly, step by step by step, over time. Okay? When a child hits puberty and their hormones start raging and all of a sudden their bodies start changing, we need to start having conversations. They need to know why. And of course, you can filter how this information comes through. You don't have to dump everything on your little child the minute they ask. You can stagger this information and have many, many, many conversations over time, as it should be. It should be a flow. It should be an ongoing process, an ongoing conversation, but you need to have many of them, because as a child's body is changing, she needs to know why. And if you're not going to tell her why, you know who's going to tell her why? Victoria's Secret advertisements. Advertisements on the radio, her friends. When she goes shopping for makeup and she's going to see a picture of a woman dressed a certain way, they're going to tell her a very, very different story. Whose story do you want her believing? The Torah's story? The story that you know to be MS, but might get there to her too late after she already believes someone else's? You have to come to your daughter first. And we're not doing it. We're not doing it because some of us feel like we're not equipped, that we don't have the right information. We feel like we're not sure if it's appropriate. We're not sure how. That is what this course is aimed at addressing. I want women to feel like experts. I want you to feel like an expert in your own body. I want you to feel like an expert in your own experience, so that when your daughter asks you a question, you say, yes, I'm so excited to share that with you. Let's have a conversation. Let's go out for lunch. Let's go buy some jewelry, and talk about this, and have many, many, many talks about. Let's initiate the conversations. Let's start those conversations before our children ask. Let's find openings so that we can plant the seeds before someone else does. So I do get a lot, I'm not going to read them out loud, but I did get a lot of emails asking this about, isn't it better to keep our kids naive? I don't think you have to give your kids all this information. Look, I don't believe that you have to give your kid everything, but I'll say it more and more. Kids are being exposed at shockingly, shockingly delicate young ages, okay? And the only way to protect your child is to make sure that you get there first, that you get there with this information in a sacred way. And I know that there is a healthy and sacred way to give over this information to any age. If Miriam Hanaviah was a midwife and she was a child, and how old was she? By some accounts 3, by some accounts 6, and she told her parents, you need to get back together. You need to get married again. She knew the secrets of desire and intimacy between a man and a wife, and she was a child. And the Gemara talks about this, that in the times of the Beis HaMikdash, all little children, small children, knew the halachos of tahara. It wasn't a secret because it was sacred. There was no need to keep something secret because it was given over in a sacred way. And we've lost the sanctity. We've confused secrecy for sanctity, and they are not the same thing. And my goal is to bring sacredness back. And when you understand that this content is sacred, you will find a way, not even find, it will be so natural for you. It will be effortless to be able to give this content over to even the youngest of children in a way that they can comprehend. Really, really, really. The secrecy, the shame has to be taken out of this subject because it is harming us. It is not helping us. It's frankly not even Jewish. That's a Christian way of approaching this. The idea of original sin, that is not Jewish at all. I don't know. I mean, I do know how these topics became kind of filtered into our Jewish culture, but that's not who we are. It's never who we have been. If you look at Shir Hashirim, and I'm a big fan of Shlomo HaMelech, I have a love affair with Shlomo HaMelech going back to when I was old enough to read, and I would take this book about Shlomo HaMelech out of the library every week. The librarian already know that nobody was allowed to take that book out because I was just already reserving it. I think I took it out probably for 30 weeks in a row. And I had this just love affair with Shlomo HaMelech. In fact, one of my children's is named one of my children is named Shalom Yedidia after the Shlemus of Shlomo HaMelech, and Yedidia was Shlomo's name given to him by Nathan Hanavi. And like we have just had this love affair with how Shlomo approached these sacred subjects. And yes, that child was born right after I gave Ignite, and it was just so right to name him for everything that I believe in. So I really believe that if we bring the sacredness back, we remove the secrecy, and yes, children of all ages deserve to be initiated into this content. So some of you are wondering, what does it mean, initiated? You know, like my email address is initiatory experience. Most of us were exposed to this information. We weren't initiated. An initiation is an invitation. It's when someone older and wiser comes over to you and says, you are ready. I welcome you. You are welcomed into the club. Did anyone tell you that when you became a woman? Did anyone tell you that when your body started changing? Did anyone come over to you and say, I am so honored that you are now a Jewish woman in Klal Yisrael, like you're your future mother? Like, that's so beautiful. Did anyone look at you in the eyes when you got your first menstrual cycle and say, you deserve a gift? You deserve a sacred gift to honor this rite of passage. I can't wait to buy you a piece of jewelry because you're a woman now. Some of us did. Lucky you. Most of us did not. And this process is an initiatory experience where we get to be the initiators. We will get to look at our children in the eye and say, we welcome you. You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to do this in secrecy and in shame. You get to do this with a community of women the same way they did it in Mitzrayim, where they were all together, where they protected each other, and together the women sang Shira. And that's what we're going to do together as a result of doing this work together. When I get women, asking me, why don't I feel like my body belongs to me? That's why I made this course. Because women of all ages and stages have told me this over the years. I don't feel like my body is mine. I feel like my body was created for the pleasure of a man. Or I got told in school, cover yourself up because you can make someone else be nichshal. Or I was molested or violated and I never really felt at home in my own body. Or I think that my body just exists to be a mother and to give birth to children. And I'll be honest, I dealt with infertility for many, many years. As a cancer survivor, we didn't know if I was ever going to have children, and each one of my children is their own miracle story. But I did have 3 children very miraculously, and then I went into menopause for 10 years. I could not have children, and I was very grateful. I was really, really grateful. I very much appreciated the stage that I was in. I never dreamed I would have another one, and the reason why I was able to be so content with my my phase or my stage in life is not just because I already had children, but because I had long ago accepted that I am so much more than just whether I'll ever be a mother, okay? That my existence, my desire, my passion deserves its own form of aliveness because I belong on this world whether or not I'm a wife, whether or not I'm a mother, okay? And I think so many of us become addicted to this idea that we are only worthy of life if, okay? And my whole journey, just having been a cancer survivor, I had to make peace with my body as is, to love my body as is, to know that I had a right to show up in the world as me. I needed to belong myself to my body, to my internal experience. So I get women who tell me all the time, I don't feel like I'm here. I don't feel like I have a right. I feel so disconnected. I feel like I'm here for everybody else. This course is for you. So when people ask me what ages or stages this course is for, I really say everyone, okay? So of course, I'm really talking to women who are more aligned with, I guess, where I am, because you can only take people as far as you've gone yourself. But ridiculously and hilariously, Hashem has decided that I will go further than most women my age have ever gone, just by putting me through things that most women my age have never gone through, like menopause. I was declared in menopause and premature ovarian failure when I was 24, and I was told I would never have more children, right? So I went through all of that. I mean, miracles have happened, and I'm so, so grateful, but I spent 10 years developing this content from a very interesting place that most women my age don't get to go through. I got to develop this content after illness, after being violated, after years and years of what didn't work. I got to develop this content after having the experience of childbirth. So I bring a lot of very interesting backgrounds and personal content, personal experience into this content. And that's why, even though, like I say, I'm young and I can really only speak to my own personal experience, but my own personal experience is pretty broad. So that being said, I do have to say there is a lot of secular content in this course, and I'm very, very careful that when I do give over that content, I want it coming from a very sacred place. I'll be honest with you. Do you know how many times I have women texting me, have you ever heard of Tantra? What is Tantra? And I'm very careful about the way I respond to that. But Tantra is avodah zarah, okay? Tantra is the sacred practice of worshiping a god and goddess through sexual acts. And today the word Tantra became urban. It became just a way of talking about sexuality and different practices. And there's a big part of me that's so, I never want to shut anyone down. You know, when someone asks me a question, I'll never be like, that's avodah zarah, because that was literally what was said to me growing up. And it's what made me decide I can't ask questions. Questions are unsafe, right? You'll get shut down if you ask questions. So I'm very careful when someone asks me a question like that, but it's highlighting a trend. It's a very, very disturbing trend that people are going outside of the community for their answers. They're finding themselves stuck. They don't know who to ask. They're not developing healthy relationships with their rabbis, their mentors, their kala teachers, and they're going to go to non-Jewish therapists outside of the community, or non-Jewish practitioners. I'm not just talking therapists, okay? Practitioners, people who are bringing in experiences from Eastern traditions, and they don't even know. You know, they don't even know. And for me, it's so sad, because for me, this is Kedusha, this is life force, this is intimacy, this is godliness. And I only want that coming from a place that's aligned with my hashkafa, the values that I've been committed to. So when I see people going to non-Jewish therapists or practitioners because they are so desperate for answers, that makes me sad. So of course, I traveled the world for this content. I will limit myself at nothing to bring content that is relevant and important and sacred into this space. But I'm very, very careful about how that gets filtered through. And a lot does have to get filtered out, because unfortunately, this content, it's you know, you have to be so, so careful. And I really try to be, and I say this with a lot of humility, because I've paid a heavy price. You know, I've paid a heavy price from learning this content from outside sources, and I'm very, very honest about that. And having to distill all of that content and go over it with my own rabbis and finding Torah sources and kind of reclaiming that for the purposes of that we get to use has been really the journey of a lifetime for me. All right, let's pop into the Zoom chat and see what some of you have been saying. Okay. Someone asked, is there an amazing reading list for this course also? Yeah, there should be. I haven't quite put that together. I am in the process of reworking the Ignite playbook, because it's 4 years old now, and I want to update it. And Emir Hashem, there should be a great book list. If you have any books to recommend to me and that you think should be on the book list, please feel free to send them my way. I'm a very avid reader, as you can tell from the books behind me, and there's a whole bookshelf on the side of me that you don't see. I read a lot, but there are always books that I haven't read yet, and I welcome your suggestions. Someone says, is it good to do Ignite after taking Vessel, or it's too much? It's too much. I'll be honest. If you've taken Vessel and you know the level of content that that is given over every week, it is a tremendous amount, and there is no way possible for you to incorporate or integrate all of the content in the very short time that we do this course together, which is why I tell you, come back year after year after year, and it's why you do get access to the materials for forever, because you're going to need a long time to integrate this material. So there are people who have done this course back to back, but it's a lot. Okay, it's a lot. Some people say, hey, I don't care, even if it's a lot of content. I just kind of want an excuse to join the lectures every Sunday night. I love your energy. I love the vibe of the group. I want to get with the program. By all means, I'm not stopping anyone from doing that. But if I'm honest, it's a lot. It's a lot of information. And I, like I said, I'm a terrible advertiser, right? I should be like, yes, for sure, do the course. And it flows so well. It really does. I do believe that Vessel is an amazing foundation for Ignite. What happens is most people end up taking Ignite first, because let's face it, sexuality sells. And that's the place where everybody wants to kind of commit to. They want Ignite. After Ignite, people are like, oh, I feel like I should take Vessel, and people end up coming to Vessel like a year later. And then after they've done Vessel, then they're like, oh, wow, now I appreciate Ignite at a whole new level. So ideally, I do believe that people should do Vessel before Ignite, but really there's no right or wrong way to do this. I want this course to be open to everyone, but it is a lot of content. So you need to know for yourself, are you the kind of person that enjoys getting, stuffed with a lot of content every week that can you keep up, or will you feel left out or left behind if you can't keep up? That's really your own decision to make. Someone asked, will it make me enjoy going to the mikveh? I know it changed my relationship with the mikveh completely. I learned so much. Yeah, it's, I made a choice. That not everybody agrees with. But I made a choice to teach my daughter about mikveh when it was her bas mitzvah. And I'll tell you why. She came, she came home from school talking about the 3 women's mitzvos, okay? Chala, Neros, and Rosh Chodesh. And I remember thinking, what? Rosh Chodesh? Rosh Chodesh is not a mitzvah. I don't understand. She's like, oh yes, our teachers taught us that Rosh Chodesh was a woman's mitzvah. I'm like, no, it's a woman's Yom Tov. It's not a woman's mitzvah. And I was so confused until I realized, oh, the 3rd woman's mitzvah is Nida. And we do cycle according to the moon. So her teacher found a very clever way of giving that over to her in the guise of Rosh Chodesh. And that was clever, but I fundamentally disagreed, because we don't lie to children. I don't believe that there's ever an excuse to lie to children, even if it's for good reason. There is no good reason to lie to our children, because then in a couple of years, when they find out the truth, they wonder, what else did you lie to me about? And I sat my daughter down and I explained to her the truth, that women do go to mikveh. And I explained to her why her teacher didn't share it. And I said, because this is women's information, and only a mother can decide when her daughter is to be initiated into the tribe of women. And you're mature, and I believe that you are ready, and a lot of your classmates are not. And it is not your teacher's job to initiate your classmates into womanhood, but it is my job. And I'm not going to let you live under a falsehood. So for her bas mitzvah, I taught her about mikvah, and she even asked to see one. And one of the things that we discussed between ourselves was that I wanted her to have the concept of mikvah as a woman's mitzvah way before she ever meets her husband. Okay, so many of us were only initiated into mikvah as the result of marriage. So what got tied together in our brain was mikvah equals being with our husband. And that's not true. Mikvah is so much more than that. But you never got the chance to know that for yourself, because you never really took the time to really honor that mikvah is a woman's mitzvah, just as a woman. And of course, we don't do it until marriage. But my daughter and I decided that we wanted her to have the seed of mikvah in her mind as a woman, that this belongs to her. And I want her to connect with the idea of mikvah before she even knows who her bashert is. That by the time she meets him, she'll already be connected to the idea that one day she's going to immerse herself and she's going to say a bracha, okay? And that's for her before she ever meets him. So yes, I get so many women who say, I don't enjoy the mikvah, and I want you to. I really, really want you to, because it belongs to you and it is so sacred. It is so special and you deserve that. So yes, I hope so, okay? I can't guarantee anything in this course, but I can tell you where my heart is and what my intentions are. Someone texts me because I said I don't have a secretary. She texts me privately. Me, hire me. I would love to help in any way I can. Legit, you don't even have to pay me. I'll pay you. Thank you. Yeah, I thank you. That means a lot. it tells me that the work that I do is really connecting. It's resonating with so many people. A lot of comments about thanking me for my honesty and my vulnerability in coming out with this. Thank you. Someone says privately, you said that the people who need to get to Ignite get there and that you're not looking to convince anyone to join. I'm wondering, I feel so closed down to the subject, not frightened or traumatized, just cold. Does a woman sit with that apathy or try to thaw it out when there is so much to learn, so little time, and yeah, funds kind of fixed? Life is peaceful enough with my husband, so it's not life is falling apart. What's your take? My take is you're on this call, right? So there's something in you that got you to join this call. That little voice inside of you, that little voice is not shut down. You think you're shut down, but that little voice is telling you, I want something more. If you really didn't have that little voice inside of you, you wouldn't be on this call, okay? And yeah, funds, I know funding is hard. It is why I offer a payment plan for those of you who ask. The payment plan is fairly simple. I divide the payments into 3. If you sign up before December 20th, the course is $990, so there would be 3 monthly payments of $330. If you sign up after the December 20th, it's $1050, so there would be 3 monthly payments of $350 each. I try to be as flexible and as kind as I can, but like I said, the reason I don't offer discounts is because it is a lifetime course. Like you're gonna get to take this again and again every time I give it, and prior cohorts can tell you it does get better every year. You know, the lectures kind of stay the same, but the Q&A up levels, the WhatsApp chat up levels, and you up level because you're a different person each time you take this. Okay, another question. I spent this past Shabbos with single friends who are dating. A couple of times through the Shabbos, this topic came up from different angles. I had already heard your introductory speech from last year, so I was looking at it a little bit differently from just hearing that. The most common feelings that they were giving off was, this is so scary. A big one was, I wish I didn't know anything about this because it drives me crazy. There were a lot of cheap jokes said, I think for the sake of handling the intense feelings that come up. So I mentioned something you had mentioned last year, which is that there is info that comes through the front door. Oh yeah, and info that comes through the back door. The important part is that a child teenager gets front door information on this. They could not imagine how this could be given over in a healthy, positive way. My question is this. I discovered this course in a way that it came to be. It landed in my lap. Would you advise as a friend to open them up to this course, this option of getting healthy exposure? I'm nervous that they might not have the support system if needed as well, and they may not be ready for this. I would say, yeah, definitely send them to this intro call. They're either going to resonate to it or not. You know, it's not your responsibility to guide your friends or to support them, but you can say, hey, based on the conversation we had over Shabbos, you may find this interesting, and they either will or they won't. Okay, that's not something that you have to, be accountable for. But yeah, about front door information. Look, if you open up Torah, Shir HaShirim, that's front door information right there, but given over in poetry and with sanctity. And I believe that is so, so possible. Someone says, when I was trained by a Kala teacher, by a woman who was pretty smart, by the way, she was marames to me too, and not to discuss anything about the physical response with Kalas. I don't have a response. All I can say was that was not the way I was trained. That was not the way my Kala teacher trained me. And I'm so grateful for that. And I had, I think, 4 women who took Ignite with me last year who are now training by the Kala teacher that I trained by. I will tell you this. I'm not going to name names, okay? But I'm going to just put this out there. There is an organization that is very, very, very well known, okay? It has a very, very broad reach. And they hired me once to do a small event for them, okay? Not on their public forum, very private event for people that they felt could handle it, an event on intimacy. And it was a one-day event where I sat in a room with about 30 women, and it was incredible. It was incredible. Just what came up and what was processed and what was uncovered in just a very short period of time, just the 8 hours that we spent together. And of course, in 8 hours, I thought I was going to cover this much content, and I covered just a fraction of what I thought I was going to cover because the women needed to go so deep and they had so many questions. About a year or two later, very recently actually, I think it was this summer, I get called by this organization and they said, Fally, we need you. We need you to come and work for us. We want to set you on a world tour where we're going to have you on stages all around. You need to be the new face of intimacy. Because we've had other people, we've brought down very respected Kala teachers and Rebbitzins who have spoken for us before. Now, this is an organization that reaches, I would not be exaggerating if I said 10,000 people a year. Okay. And I don't know their numbers. My own estimates are about 10,000. It might be more. Okay. And they said, we have women coming to us and saying, we are done. We are done with the days of remez. We are done with the days of cloaking this in mystery and in secrecy. We need somebody who's going to speak our language, because there's a language being spoken, and the Kala teachers, they're not speaking it. They're not speaking it. Today, Baruch Hashem, there's a whole new group of Kala teachers that are really speaking the language, and I'm so grateful, and I get to be one of them. But yeah, it's gone are the days. And when I was trained, my Kala teacher said, you don't ever show up to a Kala without eyeliner and lipstick. You don't ever presume to teach a Kala unless you are perfectly made up, wear high heels. Because we are done with the days of, excuse me, schlumpy Rebbitzins or cloaked secrecy and language that is not connecting with our Kalas. Our Kalas have been exposed. So I'm sure that there are Shitos that hold something different. I'm not directly opposing them. I can only say, for those that need them, I hope they find them. And for those that don't, I hope they find me. Okay? Because I know that I didn't get what I needed in Kala classes. You know, when my daughter was in preschool, she was in pre-1A, so she was about 5 years old, and there was a mommy and me situation happening, right? Well, the mother, it was actually Hanukkah time around now, and all the mothers came to do a mommy and me situation with the girls. And I was class mother that year, so I was calling up a bunch of different mothers and collecting money for the teachers or whatever it was, and I was schmoozing with the mothers. And one mother that I schmoozed with, when I met her in person at the mommy and me, I said, "You look so familiar," and she says, "Yeah, I know you." I'm like, I don't know you. How do you know me? She says, I'll let you figure it out. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know you. And I felt really stupid because, I know that I'm on stage a lot. I've been doing the world circuit for about 15 years now. So, people know me. I'm very, very well known, but I'm very well known in vulnerable ways, right? Because I speak a lot about my journey with cancer, and I speak a lot about intimacy stuff. And I always feel bad, like, is she one of my clients? Did I forget her, And she says, if by the end of the hour, by the end of the mommy and me, if you haven't figured it out, come to me and I'll tell you how we know each other. So I didn't figure it out. And at the end of the hour, I came to her, I said, you need to tell me because it's been driving me crazy. She says, we were in Kala classes together. And I was like, that was a long time ago. At that point I had been married 10 years. I was like, that was a long time ago. How do you remember me? She says, because there were about 15 of us in the Kala class and you were the only one brave enough to ask questions. And you used to ask the questions that nobody else wanted to ask. I learned more from the questions that you asked because you asked questions that I hadn't even thought of yet. And so many times in my marriage, I came upon questions that I would never even have known to ask in Kala classes. But you did, and that's why I remember you. So yeah, I get to be that person for people. And yeah, that's funny. So I'm sure that there are Kala teachers who say, talk beremez and don't give real information. I am not one of those people. I find for me, and I'll be honest with you, when I was first diagnosed with cancer, I sat with my doctor and I was still a minor. I was only 16 years old. So technically I didn't have to approve any of my care because I was a minor. My parents were the ones that had to sign the document, but I insisted on sitting in on every meeting. I had an 8-hour meeting with my oncologist where he sat through a binder that was 4 inches thick. And he went through every chemo protocol, everything I was going to take, everything, all the side effects that I was going to have for the rest of my life. And I signed all the documentation, even though I was a minor. And I said, because this is my life and I deserve to know. I want to know everything. I deserve to be the primary authority on my own reality, on my own body. And I feel that it is a travesty. It is a travesty that women today are not the authority on their own bodies, on their own intimate lives. And I'm trying to change that. And if that's something that you don't resonate with, that's okay. There are enough teachers out there that aren't me, and I highly recommend that you look them up. No, I'm not going to give you their names. You can find them yourself. You'll find that, when they say the student is ready, the teacher appears. The right teacher will come to you, and I'm very happy and okay. If it isn't me, the ones who need me will absolutely find me. Do I have the options of listening to the classes over the phone? I do. When I send out the Zoom links via email, when you sign up to the course, I give you the full Zoom invite, and there is a telephone number there for you to dial into. But you cannot listen to the recordings over the phone. Okay, the recordings can only be accessed via the internet. Someone asks when I'm offering Vessel again. I offer my courses only once a year. Vessel gets opened between Sukkot and Hanukkah. It's an 8-week course that really bridges Sukkot and Hanukkah very, very nicely. And for those people who say, "Oh, but I really want to do it now," actually there is a benefit to me locking the course for a year. Because if you know it's right for you, then you'll wait for it. I know that in certain trainings that I've wanted to take, I'm very selective about who I train. I do offer trainings, and I have a crazy amount of prerequisites for anyone who wants to train with me. I tend to refer people out. When people say, "I want to train with you," I say, "No, go to other teachers." I have a certain framework, a certain mahalach, and it's not for everybody. But I know that for myself, when I wanted to train with certain places, and there was one school that had a 4-year prerequisite, I waited 4 years. By the time I was eligible to apply to that school knew that I was serious because I had waited 4 years and I made myself a student of theirs to prepare myself for learning with them. So I lock my courses until the appropriate time, because I say, if you know that you're meant to be there, you'll wait for it and you'll be there when it opens. Someone says, it's so funny, the boys learn so many things in Torah, and all the things you teach, what you don't do on Yom Kippur. Yeah, the boys learn a lot and the girls do not. But unfortunately, most of the boys learn it from an intellectual place. They actually have no idea what they're learning, which is sad. Or they do know, but not because their Rebbe's told them, but because their friends did. Someone says, thank you. No one does that. No one offers lifetime membership. You're very generous. Thank you. Yeah, I told you my reasons. Obviously, yeah, I make a parnasa off this. I charge for the content, but it's not the kind of thing where I feel like I need you to pay me every year. I feel like I don't know, this content is owed to you. You owe it to yourself to keep showing up for yourself year after year after year. And I don't want to block anyone from doing that by saying, oh, no, you have to pay every year. No, you shouldn't have to pay every year. This content is yours. And once you've purchased it, you should be able to delve into it and go deeper every single time that you decide to approach it. Someone says, in Israel, there are women that go to the mikvah from the age of 12. I can't speak to that, but I will tell you this. My first mikvah after my wedding was in Israel. My husband and I had flown out for a trip to Israel, and it was so disorienting to go to my first mikvah and not have any bearings, and I don't speak Hebrew, and I was so intimidated. And we found the mikvah, and there was this, I don't even remember where it was, but I do remember that there was steps going down, like it was down the side of a mountain. And I went down all of these steps. It was pitch black outside, and I didn't know where to go. There was like, after I'd gone down those steps, and my husband obviously couldn't come with me, there was just like a shul there. I didn't know where to go. And there was this little kid who was riding around on his tricycle, and he asked me in Hebrew, "Are you looking for the mikvah?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "That way." So cool, so calm. And I was like, that was such a surprise. And then I went into the mikvah, and there were women waiting there. It was early, it was the winter time. And there were children in the waiting room of the mikvah, the same way there are children in a doctor's office in the waiting room, and there were toys there. And I remember thinking, that's beautiful. That's so nice. It was like the women in Mitzrayim, they're all supporting each other. They're all watching each other's children, in the waiting room as they're doing their holy work. It was so special. And I know that that's not for everybody, but it was also so nice that, these children didn't question. The same way we know men go to a mikvah, women go to a mikvah. Why does it have to be, when we hear that men go to a mikvah, it's not about sex or sexuality. It's about kedusha. It's about tahara. And these children felt the same way about their mothers. Mothers go to the mikvah too. It's not a contradiction. Again, there's a sacred way to give over this content at any age, provided that you have this content in a sacred way inside of you. Someone asked who was the kala teacher. Obviously, I'm not going to share that information, but this way, I think I scarred my kala teacher so badly, she's not a kala teacher anymore. Someone says, till when does this class run? So it begins January 8th, Emir Hashem, and it goes for 6 weeks. So figure until mid-February. Someone's like, wait, What is vessel? I'm wondering if I should wait for that first. So I'm not going to go into that here, but if you search my name on YouTube, you will get the call that I did, basically this call, the intro call for vessel that I just finished, or I'm going to finish teaching it tonight. Tonight we start our last module, module 8, our last week in vessel. Vessel is the map, the roadmap to your own psyche. It's, you know, the Aleph Beis of psychology that I think everybody deserves to know how to navigate your own internal world. Someone says, will this help me undo all the false information I was taught as a teen and as a Kala? This creates real blockages that are coming up for me years into my marriage. So yes, you will definitely be getting information that is very, very new to you from a Torah source that is going to directly combat some of the false information that you were taught. All information is true, you know, but you have to be very careful about where you take this information from and how you approach it. So yes, you will get new information. However, the levels of conditioning, because how deeply ingrained into your body it is, may take some time. And that's why this course is structured with meditations that help you kind of rewire old patterns, and why we keep coming back to this content, because I don't know if we can really release that level of conditioning in just 6 weeks. So you get to do this again and again. Someone says, do we need to really find excuses to give kids when going to the mikveh? No, I never give my kids excuses. They know exactly where I'm going. Now, again, it's not like I make a huge announcement, but I'll just be like, I'm going out. And if a kid asks me where, I'll say, I have to go to the mikveh. And I know a lot of you are like, oh, right? It's just what works for me. And if it doesn't work for you, that's fine. Again, the way we approach intimacy in our home is very sacred and not secret at all. And I've never, ever had a kid make a face or make an inappropriate comment as a result of me sharing where I'm actually going. Again, it's not an announcement I can make that I make. If I can go out privately and they don't know that I went out, for sure, that's ideal. But if they ask, I do not lie. Okay. Someone who says she's coming from Vessel, you need Vessel in my life. Okay, great. You're hired to promote Vessel for me next year, because I apparently don't do such a great job at it myself. All right. Thank you, everybody who joined on this call. I so appreciate you. And for those of you who didn't join on the call and you're instead going to hear the replay, I appreciate you as well. Please feel free to share this recording with anyone that you feel can benefit. And I very, very much look forward to working with you very soon. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.